This almost feels like if RM made a dress watch.
I don't know about that.
It does. We have some really cool stuff that's either on the site or just coming to the site recently. So I actually had a hard time picking this time around in terms of like looking at the stuff we just priced and the stuff that's getting priced for the website. So why don't you start us off with something I actually didn't think we were ever going to see.
I didn't even know if it actually existed, honestly, up until about a couple weeks ago when it showed up on our doorstep. But we're super excited and honestly honored to be able to list this piece. This is the not so new anymore, but the new Lange Odysseus Chrono.
I mean, it's new in terms of the fact that like I haven't even seen people posting these.
No, we haven't seen it anywhere, which is wild. This debuted 2 years ago, and actually more than 2 years ago. It was 2023, Watches and Wonders 2023.
That's crazy.
The steel Lange Odysseus Chrono debuted, and this is the first one that we've seen. And like Robert said, like I honestly didn't even know if this actually existed like in real life. It's kind of bonkers. Super cool piece, honestly. It's a limited edition of 100, so obviously incredibly rare. Steel, so like if you're familiar with the regular Odysseus, this is very similar. This is basically just an upsized Odysseus.
Is it upsized?
It is, yeah. So
it
hold on.
doesn't feel any bigger on the wrist. It still fits really well, and I guess it's a little thicker,
so
like it's a little chunkier. But.
It's so the regular steel Odysseus, steel blue dial, is 40.5 millimeter diameter by 11.1 millimeters thick. This is 42.5 millimeters by 14.2. So it's quite a bit larger than the regular, the standard model.
You don't feel it. You don't feel it
agreed.
at all.
And on the wrist, totally.
I get real picky about chronograph pushers.
Yes.
Because there are some watches that I think are so beautiful and well designed, and then the pushers feel like an afterthought.
And
like
this
they
is
didn't do
one
it.
that they did an amazing job
When they
with.
first introduced it with those integrated pushers for the daymatic movement, I was like, that's awesome. And then it makes so much sense to go into a chrono, and it feels great.
It's wild. I mean, really, like looking at that watch, if you didn't know it was a chrono, you wouldn't necessarily know it. Like the pushers are so well integrated and it's so clean in that case band, over at 3 o'clock that it's very, very well done. What was I going to say? Oh, so first automatic chronograph from Lange, which is interesting. You get that same, daymatic complication. Then you have that central minute counter, which is hidden behind that red running seconds hand.
That's the silver hand. Behind the red.
Yes, exactly. So new L156.1 movement with a 50-hour power reserve. Obviously, it's the only watch that this is currently used in. Great piece.
And only the second watch, like the second production watch from Lange in steel.
Second, yes, after
because obviously
the
original Odysseus
right,
was the first. This is the second watch they've ever made. And I wanted to put it on my wrist one more time because I wanted to point out Lange is a master at this lug placement. So the lugs are very much in the middle of the case, which makes you think, oh, it's gonna like be a hockey puck on the wrist. But if you size this bracelet, it fits perfectly.
Yeah.
And that's part of why you don't feel the height or the size of this, because it's just like vacuum sealed onto the wrist there in a lovely way.
The other part about this bracelet too, so it's super easy to size because as you can see, on the inside of the bracelet, it's kind of like that IWC style with those little pushers.
And the button.
And I was going to say, and then you also get that button for, the micro adjust. I mean, it's a lot more than a micro adjust, but, for the clasp sizing.
That's just about a whole link.
Oh, yeah,
in
for sure.
terms of in and out. So, yeah. I mean, it's funny. It's another one of those watches where Lange took a good bit of heat on the initial release, but I think it has proven itself to be a really strong addition to the catalog. I think it's brought new people to the brand, which is what it was meant to do, right? They didn't make this for the guy who loves all of Lange's dress watches because they already make those watches for those customers. This was about attracting new people. It was about broadening the offerings in the catalog, and I think they did a great job.
I mean, this personally is like too big for me. It actually, like the jump in size between this and the standard. But I agree. I love the standard. I think it is like it really it stayed true to the Lange design kind of brief, you know what I mean? And
it's still very German.
It's still very German, very Lange, and this just kind of carries that forward. So super, super cool piece. That's going to be live on our website like tomorrow morning, probably, if it isn't already. Very, very cool. Excited to actually see it in person and know that it really does exist. So.
I mean, that and the titanium one are
it's so funny. Like, I don't know why this just came to me, but I remember my wife and I were traveling. We were in London, and right after they debuted this watch, and in Harrods, they had the giant working model from Watches and Wonders. And I was like, oh, damn, that's super cool. I can't wait to see one. And then it took 2 years for us to see one. But yeah, great piece, great piece.
Yeah. All right. So from a steel chronograph with a screw-down crown to a platinum skeleton tourbillon. I have long been a fan of Breguet and have said that people need to wake up and pay attention to this brand.
Yeah.
This is a beautiful case in point as to why Breguet is really, like, it's so undervalued, it's criminal.
Yes.
I mean, this from Patek Philippe would be $1 million watch. The finishing, the artwork, not even talking about the execution of a tourbillon from the brand whose name, invented the thing.
I mean, look at that. Look at the decoration on the movement itself. Like, you can kind of see it in around the periphery of the dial there. There you go. This is where you really see it. Every single surface is decorated, but it doesn't feel busy. Somehow Breguet created a fully skeletonized tourbillon dress watch that doesn't feel fussy or like too much. I don't know. It's such an incredible piece, and it's so Breguet to me.
Oh yeah, yeah. And it's not like they took a standard tourbillon movement, cut out a couple holes in it, and called it a day.
No.
Like this, the process of skeletonizing this movement and then all of the engraving on what's left of the plates. I mean, this must have taken so much work. And to me, that's when a watch like this really comes into its own, is when it starts to have a life force, because you almost think about the guy who made it and the guy who sat there doing all that engine turning on all of these little tiny, thin, microscopic bridges and stuff. And I mean, look at that. The size, the proportion, it's like, that is a gentleman's wristwatch right there. And it's still legible. Like, with the blued hands against all of the open-work silver there, is still extremely legible and easy to read for something that at a glance wouldn't appear so.
I love those pops of color with the blue and the tourbillon there for the running seconds, up and for the time, and then you get those little flashes of gold on part of the running train and everything. Like, it's so cool. And this, usually for a skeleton like this, if something is overly skeletonized, like, it kind of, I'm usually not a huge fan because I don't want to see my own wrist hair. You know what I mean? And it feels too fussy. It feels too fussy.
It feels rococo, right?
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
So over the top and but this almost feels like if RM made a dress watch.
I don't know about that.
It does. To me, it does, man.
Buddy.
Like I'm sticking with it.
I love that.
That's what it is.
That's available on the website right now, correct?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that is available.
We're going to talk a little bit more about Breguet and some of our favorite, I guess neo-vintage or references later in the show as part of the Q&A. And this is a prime example of what you can get from Breguet. And like Rob said, if this had the brand name of any of the Holy Trinity or a number of other manufacturers.
Yeah, because Vacheron makes something very similar.
They do.
And it's more expensive.
Yeah.
And it's like, I actually would rather have the Breguet than the Vacheron.
Yeah.
So
tons of value for money, and it's interesting. It's not the obvious choice, and they're just incredible. So if you ever have the opportunity to handle one of these, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, monster watch.
Cool. All right, next up, another super funky, super weird piece.
My favorite watch on the tray, and I would have picked it, but you beat me to it.
I was too prepared, Robert. All right, so AP Remaster 02. So Rob, I'm gonna let you show that guy off. This is another super limited edition piece. They made, I think, 200 of these or 250. But this is proof positive that AP does so much more than just the Royal Oak. Like, you know, it's easy to kind of think that in the past, what, decade plus, like since the death of the Jules Audemars line, there's not a whole lot else other than Royal Oaks. But I think with this, with the Code line, they're still doing interesting, distinctive stuff. Like, this is such a cool piece. So you might be familiar with the original, the Remaster 01. That was that more.
It was a two-tone
gold,
old school chronograph.
Yes, and it was still very funky, but it was more traditional. This is like totally out of left field. But the best part of this is that this watch was actually inspired by a super rare reference, the reference 5159. That AP made just 7 examples of between 1959 and 1963. So I don't even know, like, I don't know who designed it. This reminds me very much of like Gilbert Albert that we talked about a few weeks ago.
Well, it's also just very much of that age. Right. Like the starburst for the markings on the dial. Yeah. You know, that was such a like jet set era kind of thing. And this like that like retrofuturism.
Exactly. Retrofuturism, 1950s, early 60s, like super optimistic, crazy space age stuff.
And we haven't even talked about, this is, what do they call it? Sand gold?
Yes. So this is AP's proprietary alloy that they call sand gold, which lives, I mean, you can see in the photos, it's somewhere between full rose and full white gold. It's like this very interesting mix of the two. It definitely skews more white, but it has a real warmth to it.
Yeah, and it's I would kind of put it in the same camp as the Lange honey gold, but it's not the same thing at all. It's a very different kind of color to it.
It's much lighter than the honey gold.
But there's like a little copperiness to it that you don't get. Like the honey gold, I feel like is closer to a yellow. And this almost feels like if you smashed white and rose together, you would get this.
Totally, exactly.
And I love the dynamicism of the dial as well. You can see, like, as I'm moving it around in the light, it almost looks like a pinwheel.
Well, so I was going to say that. So the dial, it's AP's blue Nuit dial, so it's like their dark blue. It's there's 12 individual like pie pieces, triangles there, and each one is delineated by a line of the sand gold. There's those striations, individual, lines on each of the slices of the pie. So you get this crazy play with the light. Then that's paired with that wild crystal with that crazy slope over at 3 o'clock.
It's big, but like, it's fine. It wears so well. It's so well proportioned. Because when we first saw it, our first thing was like, wow, it's a lot larger than we expected it to be. But it actually, like, you look at it on the wrist and
it looks great.
That's it, man.
It's funny,
It's almost like an Urwerk, but it's easier to wear.
Oh, it's a better Urwerk, you're saying? That's high praise, actually. That's high praise coming from Rob. The original, that reference 5159, I think it was like 20. It was like 27 mil or something. Like it was
small.
It was teeny tiny. Yeah. So this is obviously on a totally different scale. But AP calls this a tribute to brutalism, which actually makes total sense to me as well. It's kind of slabs, like all the surfaces of the case are obviously very angular, but they're like very almost slab.
There's not a lot of like bevels, and it's hard edges with like no transition.
Striations.
It's just, and then it's different.
This is such a cool piece though. Like I said, limited to, damn it, I thought I wrote it down. I think it's 200 pieces. I don't remember.
It doesn't matter. There's not a lot
Very
of them
limited.
out there.
I think this is like the second one that we've ever seen of the O2. Yeah. Available on the website for $79.5 right now.
And it's funny, right before that came out, I saw somebody post it and they were like, Remaster 01, where's the next one? Right. Because it was a couple years in between that initial one and this one. Like, they really took their time. And I see why. That watch doesn't seem to share anything with any of their other watches. No, they would have had to build that from the ground up.
I really do hope that they continue this line and they do more. Looking, almost like a CP or Le Historique line or something like that from AP. Because again, they have so many interesting designs from their back catalog, from the 40s all the way up through the 80s, even into the 90s, where it would be awesome if they put a modern spin on them and kind of reinterpreted them. Yeah. So. Very, very cool piece. So check that out on our website.
Nice. Again, favorite one on the tray. But we have more good stuff. I was excited to get this in as well.
I was too.
This is the IWC Ingenieur Perpetual. So this is the newest addition to the Ingenieur line, which IWC reintroduced a few years ago. They kind of brought it back to the original Genta designed Ingenieur, because that was the actual third watch he designed. Genta did not design the 222. Everybody assumes that he did because it's the big three. He did not. Vacheron did that on their own in response. He actually did design the original Ingenieur.
Yeah.
So IWC brought it back to that, which was a beautiful move because the Ingenieur had gotten very large and
it had moved so far away from the original design brief that like bringing it kind of relaunching it and bringing it back to what it was and what it was originally intended to be.
To the integrated bracelet Ingenieurs, because there were dress watch Ingenieurs before that are a whole different thing.
That's a different thing.
And IWC tried to bring those back, and I feel like those came and went rather silently because nobody really cared. So anyway, they've taken this watch and they've taken the bracelet in the case, and obviously they've had to make the case a little bit thicker to fit the Perpetual in there, but I think this is a lovely treatment of the Ingenieur.
Is this 42 now? What is the size? Do you know the case size off the top of your head? Oh, way to be prepared, Robert. I'll look it up. Hold on.
If it's 42, I'd be surprised because it doesn't feel like a 42. I think part of that's because it basically doesn't have any lugs, right? It's like it's the case and then it just comes down into the bracelet.
Yeah.
And there's no like big bulky crown guards or pushers, so you don't feel a ton of size on it. What I think is cool about this is like if you want a Royal Oak Perpetual, it's big, big money. If you want a Patek 5740, it's big money. And it's, that then is only white gold. Like you don't even have the steel option. This gives you the option for a steel Perpetual on a beautiful integrated bracelet at an accessible price point. Again, for
a Perpetual calendar.
Right, for an automatic Perpetual.
So this is, it's 41.6, so the better part of 42. But Personally, I really particularly love the dials that IWC has brought to the entire new Ingenieur line. It's like this very interesting checkerboard engraving almost. And for whatever reason, the Perpetual works the best for me. I don't know if it's just like that I don't know, breaking it up a little bit, or I'm not sure what it is, but I really, really love the interplay of those different textures with those subdials, with those outer edges that are with the rings and everything in the moon phase. Like it's beautiful. It really wears like you just showed off. Like it's very, very nice on the wrist.
I like that they use the dial to create some uniqueness and some distinction here. Because my biggest problem with integrated dress watch, integrated sport like steel bracelet watches, is that a lot of them end up feeling derivative from either Patek or AP, right? It's like, oh yeah, they were thinking about the Nautilus or they were thinking about the Royal Oak. And this obviously has its own history to lend on, but then they didn't just do a striped dial. They didn't just do like a waffle pattern dial. They did something that was actually kind of unique and cool, and I think helped define the series. So bravo IWC.
Yeah, that's available right now for $33,500 on the website. So like Rob said, for a Perpetual calendar,
for a steel Perpetual that you could wear every day. And it's a screw down crown. And there's no like pushers on the case. So like, I mean, that's your everyday Perpetual.
Yeah, it's cool.
I love it.
That's a really good one.
I'm going to do a real quick banger on this IWC while we're IWCing. One of my favorite, this will be the second time we've used the word neo-vintage, and we're not done with it yet. But and it's funny, because truth be told, this is just vintage at this point.
Yeah, no,
because it's 30 years,
crazy.
right? 30 years makes it a vintage item, whether it's a watch or a car or a person. So this is the 3705. And this was the original Flieger chronograph, and this was the first time that IWC did a serial launch of a watch in a ceramic case. And this has become quite well sought after by collectors for that reason. It's a 36 or 37 mil case, which I love it. This was produced between 94 and 98, so still kind of like coming out of the quartz crisis, the Swiss watch industry still coming into its own. I look at this and I actually think it kind of looks older than that, which is really interesting.
I don't know. It's really interesting because it kind of does like bridge that gap between what I think of as like, 80s and older, like 70s and 80s IWC and what we know today. But the idea of a major manufacturer coming out with a ceramic case in '94 does seem pretty bold because, like,
there wasn't much back then. Like, Ratto was making stuff. IWC had started to play around with like mixing ceramic and titanium. But this was the first attempt at like a real like serially produced ceramic case watch. You can see they were still doing the pushers here in steel. They still did the screw down case back in steel. Versus now where we see like watches that are fully ceramic. And you saw things like rubber pushers and things like that as well with these, which was interesting as they were working the kinks out. But a very cool watch from an era that I think IWC made their best stuff in the late 90s, early 2000s. I love this era of IWC. And yeah, this will always be the real pilot chrono for me with that flat hand and like the almost like Spartan kind of design. There's no like airplane shaped hands.
I was going to say,
and
this is the best.
Altimeter date windows.
You get like the what makes it a pilot's watch, so that like super legible dial. You know, those you know, you get the day and the date, which is nice, but then you have, you know, just black with stark white. But you know, these are great too because it's all tritium. So the like. We've seen some amazing ones that have aged like to a gorgeous creamy patina.
First thing I would do is take this IWC Gator off this thing and put it on a NATO.
Totally,
and it would look so good.
Yeah, that's such a special one, and it's, you know, IWC obviously re-released this watch essentially not that long ago, so there is a modern version of it.
The tribute to 3705.
Tribute to 3705, great piece as well, but it's really tough to beat the original. You know,
it's different. It's bigger. It's just not the same.
Agreed.
It's not the same.
Like you said.
And it never will be, right?
No.
Like very few brands actually do like a note-for-note reissue of the old piece. You don't see that very often. So it's cool that they did it and they made it accessible because there are a ton of those around. Whereas in this, there's not. You have to hunt for that.
Yeah, you really do. And again, like you said, that like mid-90s, for me personally, is peak IWC. Like that's where they did their best work. That's kind of like what I think of and what I really see.
There was the original Pilot series. There was the Porsche design, the Ocean 2000, which apparently they lost so much money on that watch.
Cool watch, though.
Because the R&D costs were like tremendous. Because that was the first 2,000 meter water resistance watch. And then the Portuguese from back then, like that 94. Rebirth of the Portuguese with that one with the really engraved movement is beautiful. Like there's a lot of items.
There's a lot, and there's a lot of really funky little like you said earlier, nooks and crannies within those lines.
GST.
Exactly. There's all kinds of crazy stuff. So if you want to fall down a rabbit hole, go look at early 90s IWC. There's a lot of really awesome stuff out there.
You can thank us later.
At a very approachable price point too. So
speaking of inapproachable price points, why don't we finish with this little Patek?
So if you were with us a few weeks ago, we were talking about our favorite watches from the 1940s. And before this piece even walked through our door, this was what I picked as my favorite watch from the decade. And it's the Patek 1415 World Time. So Rob, I'm going to pass that off. And it is teeny tiny. It's 32?
It's 30? Teeny tiny.
It's whatever. I don't even.
It's small by today's standards.
It's small by today's standards. It is an absolutely stunning time capsule of a watch. Like this one is from 1948. They produced the model from 39 to 54. This is the first serially produced world time. They basically, you know, if you're familiar with the history of world times, Louis Cartier developed it in partnership with Patek. You know, the world time mechanism, and then Patek. You know, they
started with pocket watches or table clocks or something, and it was a much bigger mechanism. And then I know it took Patek a little while to get it small enough to be able to put it in a wristwatch. And the wristwatches of the time were this size because the standard bearer for Patek was the reference 96, and that was 30.5 millimeters. That was really like a small watch, but this was the norm. So like this didn't feel small at the time. This probably felt a little more generous.
These are incredibly rare. There's like less than 100 of them out there in yellow gold. You know, it was produced for a long time, but obviously at that time, Patek wasn't making a lot of watches and especially wasn't making a lot of complicated pieces like this. The reason why this watch really speaks to me, you know, the way that it does is it's like, it's a window into 1948, essentially, because on that bezel, it's engraved with the names of cities around the globe at that time, corresponding to different time zones. And the 1415, like I said, was made for 15 years. So
I can't read them.
Here, I might look in a minute when you're done with it. But from 39 to 54, think about what was going on in the world at that time. Like there was massive turmoil. Borders were being changed, names were being changed, and depending on what year one of these was produced and what market it was produced for, there are different names that are engraved on the world time bezel. So,
and that's a tradition that Patek has continued with this, because you'll find world times that have been issued to specific markets with specific cities, replacing them. One of the watches from Albert's collection that he's really proud of is one that has Jerusalem on the world timer, and I think they made like 5 or 8 of those or something.
I mean, man, this is even hard for me to read right now, but you've got
and you got the Hawkeye.
I know.
I don't feel so bad anymore.
Well, you've got Calcutta, but then there's
Calcutta.
Peiping. I don't even know what city that is now. Like Adelaide. I mean, I don't know. It's unbelievable. And this is actually absolutely beautiful as well. This is a really, really nice example. You get that giant observer hand.
It's so good. It's like, after the Perpetual Calendar chronograph, I think Patek's second big signature move is actually the world time.
Agreed.
I've always liked Patek world times. I've always thought they were, some of the nicest looking pieces. And there's a romance to a world time.
Totally. Oh my God.
The idea that I need to know what time it is in every time zone.
Do you need to know what time it is
because
in Ceylon?
I am a citizen. Ceylon!
I know.
That's great.
It's so
it's
cool.
Not Ceylon anymore.
It hasn't been for quite a long time. But yeah, I mean,
I am a citizen of the world kind of thing. I don't know. There's something about it. I love it. I'd love to own one myself, and to own that one, to have a piece of history with those beautiful teardrop lugs and the engraving on the bezel instead of the modern system is brilliant.
It is amazing.
Right?
That outer
it's so
ring.
much more practical. Although you have the daylight savings time issue, but we won't talk about that.
No one cares about that.
The old one is there's a charm, man. It's so cool.
Charm is the perfect word. It's evocative of a very specific era, and it's just special.
Yeah.
I'm so excited that we just happened to have one of these walk through our doors. I was not expecting it, but very, very, very excited about that one. That's another that's going to be coming to our website really soon, so keep an eye out for that if you're interested.
Very cool. So I was going to talk about another neo-vintage Rolex sub, but I think we'll push that, and maybe we can talk broader about Rolex and their transitionary period there in the 80s another day.
Yeah.